Okay, welcome to Nested Loops. We're doing Badass Making Users Awesome, and we're doing the user journey. So I'll turn it right over to Diego, who's ready to go.
All right, so we're talking about the user journey. Last time we talked about Think Badass and what Badass is, and we're going to talk a little more about what Badass is. Generally, so here he talks about the user curve or the user journey. Pretty much how does it go from a total beginner to be a badass? And then we're going to define what badass is. And if, like, whenever you have a product or tool, like generally the misconception is to think about to think very technically about the tool. Like in the case of the book, it makes use it like a camera to take photos, and pretty much like the tool is the camera, how it works, how to set exposure, and whatever else, like format, landscape, portrait, all those kind of settings. And that's the technical portion of it. But then there is a context in which you use the camera, which is here it calls the compelling context. And I just say like you should concentrate more at the compelling context than the technicality that goes in it. So if your tool is complex, like in the case of a camera, then there are two different challenges. One is the learning curve of the tool itself, and the learning curve of the compelling context to become a really good photographer. And those are two different things, but they kind of go hand in hand, right? And French is like it's not about just about what the tool is. It's also what you can do with the tool. And in general, they suggest that if you don't know what the compelling context for your tool is, it's helpful to come up with one, make up one until you have like a more refined compelling context for it. Did this work? Okay, yes.
Hey, Diego, I don't want to distract you, but can you close your email?
Oh, sorry. Okay. Should be closed. It won't close.
God, Diego has more emails than me.
All right. Hold on a second. Let me.
All right. This will be easier to cut, and
this.
then Mill won't see anything.
Right. I wasn't seeing the notification itself.
Sorry.
All right. And
Thank you.
All right. So again, we're talking about the learning curve, and there's a user curve, and again, we're gonna see this diagram many times, like from beginner to master, from the first exposure to and time, ability and year and time. How do we go from? How do we build a learning curve that is very steady and now hops and leaps? Plateau, and how we help our user to become a master the fastest way, or the fastest way, or fast enough way. In practice, says like if your tool again is complex, you might have two learning curve, one for the tool and one for the context. And over down below, I have a screenshot of what that actually would look like. And this kind of like jumps straight into the first exercise, which is to draw your user curve and then your compelling context curve. So like for doing the exercise, should we come up with something else that is not work related?
Sure.
Anybody has an idea?
I gotta think of one. Let's see. I know. Anyone speak to home? Is there a product that would help? A hypothetical thing that you could use a product for?
I could go like with the pen tablet.
Sure. So in that case, what the bigger context is some kind of art, but the particular tool. Actually, um, what's that iPad drawing tool that Alexa
Procreate.
uses? Yes.
Right, Procreate is a good tool. So Procreate is a tool like to draw, and is that actually I think it has a very to do the simple stuff is very easy, and then it has a lot more advanced stuff that are not obvious. Is that accurate, Alexis?
That's accurate, and you can get like really good results just from doing the basic stuff. So I feel like time is not really, I don't know. Like I guess over time you can find out what the more hidden settings are. Like for example, in the brush, like you can customize the brushes like a lot, and I personally don't do it, but yeah, I feel like that's a little more advanced.
Right.
So I don't know how would the curve look.
So it would probably start out what 45 because it says pretty easy at first,
Right. I
and
think
then it
like
climbs. It probably climbs because if Alexis is not using the more advanced things, and I go, oh well, she's probably the most artistic of all of us.
right. I think like for something like a Procreate, there are multiple things that play. Like for example, drawing on pen and paper is very different than drawing on a tablet. So you have that learning curve. And zooming in and out, like actually the same area that you're drawing on is also where the tools are for zooming in and zooming out. And I personally, that's where I get most of my frustration when drawing on a tablet, is because when I zoom in, I don't see the rest of the paper because I'm zoomed in.
That's so funny because that's the thing I appreciate the most about it is like I can go in and zoom in on the details and work on that. Whereas like if I'm working on analog, like traditional mediums, it's like too static, like, and I can't. There's no undo. So like,
Right.
if I make an error, like I have to, cover it up.
Like for me to be good, I would have to use like a really big tablet so that when I zoom in, I'm not zooming so much that I don't see the rest, or I see some of the other stuff that are like ancillary. So I think so. There's that learning curve. There's a learning curve of the product, and then which in this case will be Procreate, and then the compelling context is like becoming an artist, right? That has his own learning curve. Like they can really go like up plateau, up plateau, up plateau, up plateau, and I guess that would be how I would draw it, like the compelling context. Same for the tool. I think it's kind of like start very quickly, but like it kind of like plateaus quickly as well for me. For somebody else, it will be different.
Yeah, I would agree with those. Yeah.
All right. So again, this is the ideal curve. I mean, we're never gonna get a straight line, but we're gonna get something that can undulate. And there are like two thresholds that are the most important: the suck threshold and badass threshold. One, because like when you're a beginner, if you are in the suck zone over here, or we say this is the danger zone. Danger zone. It would be if you hang out too much in this area, you get frustrated, discouraged, and then you quit, right? Once you pass the stack threshold, you can do the basic, you're competent, you're good at this, I'm advanced. You can also just stop there and plateau there, right? And then once you're past the badass threshold, you'll finally say, okay, I'm a kick-ass, I'm a world class, and they're we go into what that badass actually means later, actually in the next chapter.
So related to that curve,
right?
So I don't remember what Alexis showed on Procreate, but part of word of obvious, I guess, is Scott was so inspired by that he basically got the iPad with the pen to try that software out. Which arguably, I believe, last time I talked to Scott about it, he's still in the suck zone. But I think Alexis sort of says she's probably the I'm good at this. Where do you think you are on your chain?
Yeah, I would say I'm good at this.
So you're not quite the badass Procreate user, but some of your word of obvious inspired Scott enough to buy the product. Unfortunately, I don't think maybe Scott went past the suck into I can do the basics. He was kind of excited for a while, but also, I guess, not having as much inherent artistic talent, I imagine he petered out.
I'll tell you this, on paper, I'm talking on pen and paper, I'm actually competent to good at drawing, but on a tablet, I can do the basics. I'm slightly above the suck threshold. It still sucks to me. maybe I'm in the sucks area.
So Forrest's insight was, you don't have to be a super badass, right on that line. You can just be, I'm super good at this, and then you can, get the word of obvious out and get other people on the product.
Right. One other thing it talks about is the dangers of upgrade. Quite often people don't upgrade or they change product because an upgrade means relearning. So maybe you just made it past the suck threshold, and an upgrade means change in UI, changing stuff, and that all of a sudden you kind of take a dip, and we don't want to with upgrades send people back in the danger area. It's you just made it out of it.
Yeah.
It's something that you don't want to go back into. And there's in between these two areas, there's the stuck zone. The line is moving forward in time, but not in ability, which again we'll see later is it might be okay. But generally you want to get them past the second threshold. So in cameras, there's an auto mode. The pretty much it does all the decision for you. And one of the problems with the auto mode is quite often is that it gets you in a safe zone, right? You feel okay, I can take the photo and point and use this camera. It might be this DLSR, I call it DLR, SLR.
SLR.
Might be an SLR. But because you haven't learned the tool, you never get out of this the training wheels of the auto mode, right? So with the auto mode, it makes you kind of stay in the stuck zone because the threshold of getting out of that mode is kind of scary, right? So over here it talks about what are the equivalent of the auto mode for your user. This is the way in which your user gets stuck at your tool and the compelling context. Because maybe some of the things that are required to improve in the compelling context are also required to improve your knowledge of the tool, more advanced features, Alexa talked about custom brushes. Like I saw people doing custom brushes and having easily make hair or fire, or like a very common one is like leaves and clouds and grass. Like you can just brush grass and looks fantastic. But I don't know what Alexis, what do you think of the auto mode for? Is there another mode for Procreate?
Like, yeah, definitely when it's brushes, there is an auto mode when you're just looking at brushes. Like, for example, even when you're using like one of the pen tools, it'll auto correct like the kind of shape that you're drawing so that it looks very clean and not like squiggly.
Oh, okay.
So there's stuff like that helps out if you want like clean lines, and I'm sure there's like many other things, but I don't know too much.
Is it good enough that you never have to do a custom brush? Do you ever just go, oh, that's good enough? I'm
Well, yeah, when there's like that autocorrect thing, it's sort of like when you're drawing, you have to sometimes create like multiple strokes over and over to get the right one. But if there's a feature like that, like the autocorrect, then you just do it once and then it's the way you want it.
Actually, I use something, can't even know the name, on my laptop, like to draw, and has like this smoothing feature that always screws up the line. Meaning, I want like a line to go a certain way.
If it depends on the effect you're going for too.
Right.
If you want that kind of sketchy look, then obviously you don't want the auto fix.
Right. Like, or you cannot do it like something in between. Like you can never do Dr. Katz. If anybody remember that TV show with the tool that I was using, because you cannot do a squiggly line. It's like impossible to have a squiggly line.
So what was the desired insight of this exercise? Where if you make it too easy, you plateau. That can't be it. You can't be don't make it too easy, but by making it easy, they're afraid to move over. Like, I guess what we're saying you need to do to get past the OK mode.
Yeah, it's perhaps like if there is another mode, how do you get them out of the other mode? And what is the threshold to get them out of the other mode?
So for example, like, has anyone used the advanced parts of their phone camera? Like, I'm 100% complete auto mode, and I imagine I'm probably so lame I don't even use the other auto modes. You know, they have like food mode and Instagram mode and stuff like that. I don't even use those. I just use the photo video.
Actually, Julia showed me by holding two fingers and dragging up and down, you can actually do that. Sorry, the exposure, alter the exposure, which is one of the things that for some reason my phone always sucks at. That I take a picture, it's like either too bright or too dark, and never the right exposure. And she showed, oh no, you can do like two finger, drag up and down. You can do this. So yeah, like the auto mode, like I'm gonna say that it's generally good enough, but like it's the default, so you don't even know what other functionality are available. I would never guess finger drag up and down would do anything. And also because it doesn't always do something.
Well, I think the problem with that kind of interface is you accidentally drag and your picture sucks and you don't know why. Or maybe you accidentally drag and your picture turned out good if you don't know. Like, there's all these gestures for VLC for my phone. And I don't know what they are, but I accidentally trigger them all the time. And I go, and it's terrible. It's just like, it's interface wise. It's like, oh, this makes volume and this changes contrast. I go, what? I don't know that, and I only know because a number is on the screen and then something changes. So.
But this is like, again, it's let's say you have a complex tool and you have another mode to get people up and running quickly, right? But the next thing is like, what if you live in the entry-level beginner tool? Your tool is not complex, and it's like a kind of point and shoot kind of camera. What then, right? If entry-level like if you don't make any advanced version of it, what's your deal? And can you still become a badass with a point and shoot camera? And this is like goes into this other exercise. Okay, so if you have an entry-level only product, maximize on the expertise of the skills that are not tool dependent. Let's say you don't have control of exposure, speed, the shutter frame, all the kind of stuff. What else can you do? And then you go into composition, digital editing, lighting, all the other things that are still part of the compelling context, but they're not tool dependent. So as a producer of that tool, you can still make it better for your customers. And then there's the other point. We know he uses an inferior martial artist. So I say we don't have to make all of use of the Bruce Lee of our context. So some people would be happy, like you talked about, maybe Scott is happy, with just doing some doodle sketches and whatever he's doing, and he lives above the SAC threshold. So people want to be like a little bit better. Like my daughter does her drawings, and she's very happy with what she's doing, but she's not like making art that is, like used in magazine or anything like that, right? So some people would be happy with just being proficient with the tool, novice, getting the job done. And we don't need to create multiple learning paths for all these different people. We just need to create the best path that goes from novice out of the sackage into the badass area, and people will choose when to stop, right? Because the early steps out of the suck, the danger zone, are the same for everybody. As things, also we need to keep account that things change. A user might get like in the flow, or might get very excited. Like maybe like their original goal is to make sketches, but as they get better, they might want to decide to take it a little bit farther. Like people, and like let's imagine like people go CrossFit. A lot of people getting to CrossFit not to go to the CrossFit games, but some people do, right? So some people might start it as an exercise, and then they say, "Oh, I really, really like this. I really like when this." Or maybe they'll get into some other kind of competitive format or sports. And these were my thoughts. It's hard to crystallize the first step towards mastery without making it look daunting in general, because the path to mastery, and again, if you look at Procreate, it's like what is mastery in Procreate? Is it like a level that you do like this amazing digital painting, or maybe you do matte painting for digital domain, or like some, I don't know, sci-fi magazine or story. That could be something. And also, I feel like one of the things that will help is to help the user self-assess or where they're at, so they can jump in at the right point in the curve. We want it to look more like a straight line, right? So let's say I'm not in the suck zone, but somewhere near the baddest threshold. How do I make it through? What am I missing to cross over, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's a very hard thing to answer as a producer of a product and also as an end user, right? How do I, as an end user, how do I self-assess correctly? Right. I draw where I can do like pretty good drawings, but am I like even in the overall context where I'm at? I feel it's very hard to determine. Like, anybody has any thoughts about that?
Yeah, like for example, when you're like an app and then you push updates to your tool and you have some new features, you might want to highlight that when someone jumps back in on the app. And like sometimes all it takes is a nudge because you're so used to your current workflow that like even when you update the app, you don't read the description in the app store and you don't realize what actually has been updated until you discover it for yourself. So even just highlighting like new features will help like you, the user, pay attention to it and maybe like actually start using it and getting better.
All right, I'm gonna jump into what experts do, science of badass. Next chapter, since we have time.
Okay.
About being a master, maybe I missed something, but I would think the task would involve like multiple things, like showing like your ability to do multiple skills, not just one.
Yeah, possible. Well, it depends on the context.
Yeah.
I got a question. What company? Does anyone know a company that's they're actually trying to make you a badass? Like, in the case of Procreate, I'm sure they have a big manual. Do they have a site where they're showcasing work? I think some of, like, in the case of Procreate, seeing other people's awesome examples is probably, I can't do that.
I think I don't know about
I want
Procreate.
To do that, you know?
Procreate has some facilities to like share your work. Mm-hmm. You know, even like the speed drawing thing is kind of cool. But I think there's either their website that they're good at doing what you just said. As a company, I think Adobe is actually doing a really good job lately. Like I get, because I have their suite of products, I get even more than I can possibly use. Mm-hmm. Like so many emails with tutorials and with like they're really working on this, on this making you a badass, mm-hmm. And like learning paths for anything, or like even like a creative prompts. I get emails almost daily with creative prompts like, oh, let's do this today. If you don't know, you never done it, here's a tutorial. So I think as a company, they're doing a really good job.
AWS wants your total buy-in. And what I mean by that is, do we see Amazon Web Services as a product?
Yeah.
Tons of emails.
Yeah, like, I think they also do a pretty good job. Could they do a better job? Probably.
I don't know. Go ahead.
If I were to compare them with Adobe, I would say they're definitely behind.
Right, because I get that email from Amazon with the thing where I know increasingly less words on it. So I'm always aware, but there's all this stuff on Amazon we're not using, and maybe we should, but it's at the point where it's overwhelming. I said, I only understand 12% of the tech in this email here.
Yeah, I was showing to Don like some of the stuff that like definitely went under my radar, and one was quantum computing. services, and another one was satellites. So they have if you have your own satellites, you can beam to their own satellite receivers. So you just need the satellite in the sky, and now all the infrastructure below to receive the data. You can use their receivers. And I thought, like, who knew they did this?
Well,
or even
I'll tell you what, if you have your own satellite, you're definitely a badass user.
Yeah, right. Or you may sublet some satellites are actually
I mean, I guess I knew both of those products existed, so it matters if you're interested.
Yeah.
Well, I would go with the last word in his first sentence. Looks daunting. I see that email and went, holy crap, look at all the AWS stuff I don't know.
Right. And I think they also created a product, I can't remember now the name of it, that is specific for the taking out you out of the stack and danger zone. Right? They pretty much gives you templates and a whole bunch of like almost pre-made ideas to take. Then you can import into something else and get you going with something that looks really good, like very, very quickly. All right. So, science of a badass. What is a badass? So, like, again, we talked about moving them up, right? Up and to the right. And part of the job is to have both continue to build skills and encourage it and motivate it to wanting to continue to build skills. So what is a badass? So a badass in general is an expert at what they do. Oh, what happened there? Sorry, at what they do. It's not just what they know, it's what they do with what they know and their ability to do again, again, again. So it's a performance that is both superior and more consistent than performance of those that are knowledgeable and experienced, but they are not producing expert results. So expert makes better choices than the other consistently. And that is what they're able to do it, whether it's dancing, guitar, cooking, engineering, coding, whatever it is. They have a certain level of expertise. They are getting better results consistently, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a doctor given a specific set of symptoms does a better job at diagnosis and is more reliable. A coder maybe does something better, or like there's an example of a DJ has a better track that is more popular or stuff like that. And actually, the expert makes either both conscious and unconscious choices that consistently produces superior, better results. But then again, there's a caveat, which is like, what is better anyway? Like, in order to define a badass or an expert, we also need to define for each context what those the better results are. So what is a better coder? Is somebody, we need to define specific criteria for it. Is a code easier to test? Is it easier to read? Is it better code shorter code? Is it faster at executing, or was it faster to write? There's a lot of things that can be considered be better code. And even though you don't have the, let's see in the next one, yes. The one true perfect criteria, coming up with a criteria that defines what better is very helpful. Then you have something to work towards, right? So in creative domains, popularity is often correlated with expertise, but it's only one all the criteria, right? To meet the definition of expertise, you also need to sustain the popularity. Not someone that used to know, like Gautier. Like he had the one hit song. Is he an expert in his performance thing? Maybe not, because an expert should be, like if we are looking at the level of performance, an expert, it would be the Jay-Z, Beyonce, all those people that can, pump out those results over and over and over and over, and not just once. And again, over here it says in performance-related expertise, even an accurate set of criteria is important to have, even if it's not the one true perfect criteria. And I think there's a lot of things that fall in the performance-related expertise. Like doctors, I think they surgeon, and it's not like it's not just fail or pass. There's different things that are making like a more fluid definition. See if I can get to the end of it. So an exercise, play the definition of best for your context. So this was like the template was given a representative task and domain, an expert performs in a superior way more reliably. And in the photography, you have specific camera lens, a specific exposure composition, a better photographer produces more aesthetically pleasing and evocative photos more reliably. And if we go we're doing Procreate. So Procreate, given, let me think. What would that be? Given a specific color scheme and set of brushes. Alexis, come to help.
Sorry, what was the question?
So like if we do like what would be a badass in the context of a Procreate user, like an artist?
Yeah.
Like it would be very similar to this. Like we'll provide a badass will provide like a nice composition, color scheme, aesthetically pleasing drawing, right?
Yep. So given a set of brushes and a color palette, yep, that works with what you said.
Okay.
An expert can create a landscape painting that more reliably. I don't know about that.
Well, should that be a narrower context?
I mean, like if you think about like you say a landscape, I'm thinking Bob Ross, right? Bob Ross definitely is reliable when it comes to making those landscapes.
True.
Like he nails it every single time, which is kind of amazing. And the other way is like what's the best for your tool. I guess like given coming up with this is actually kind of very similar to a user case. Given the task of creating a landscape, an expert will create the appropriate custom brushes for grass, leaves, trees, snow, and whatnot, more reliably. Oh, then it talks about natural talent. So, and the difference of natural talents. So, like there's in sport domains, quite often we talk about people that are natural talent, they have a genetic advantage, but aside of those areas, and even in those areas, it's not always a great thing to have that genetic advantage. Having some genetic advantage, maybe, but it can backfire. And there's a book called Mindset which also shows the damage of having a label like being a natural as something. I'm gonna talk like about my brother. Like my brother was a natural, a few different things, but because they came too easy, he never wanted to pursue any of it. Anyway, so it talks about here natural talent is not an absolute requirement for most non-sports domains and for most people for reaching high-level expertise. They generally help in the beginning, like out of the package, and at the very, very top end of the curve. But in the middle, they can actually backfire. A natural talent for focus practice is helpful, but still not a pre-requirement. And generally, people that study violin or other instruments, or even like painters, generally as they become an expert at the one thing, they acquire this focus practice, and they are able to translate it to other domains. There's a book about like mastery mindset, written by a chess player. Now I cannot remember his name. That he was like a child prodigy. He was featured in Searching for.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. The guy he did Taiji and Jiu-Jitsu also.
Right.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
And then he took what he knew and how he learned chess into Chinese. Was it Chinese?
It's Taiji.
Tai Chi. And became like a champion in that one, which is like very, very different. First of all, it's physical, and it's very, very different from chess. But it made some really good parallels of both the practice and the mental preparation that was needed. Getting psyched out by your opponent, all kind of other stuff that can happen at a very high level. Okay, so becoming a badass in one domain helps become a badass in others. Also, the best versus one of the best. As I say, the natural talent helps in the beginning and at the very, very, very top. But sometimes it is a disadvantage. People sell effortless in the beginning, get easily discouraged when the selling stops. The progress slows down, then it's something they're not used to, so they get discouraged very quickly. And that's the book I mentioned. And most of us are settlers anyway. Most of us don't need to be the best. We just want to get better. Or we want to be good enough, but, always get a little bit better. And being skilled is something that we care about is often good enough. It's often something that kind of fills our heart enough. And then again, things changes over time. And one of the things that as a producer of a tool that we can do is support encouragement. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna see if I can find one of those emails and see what the product is that they send out. And then the next thing in the book is what did the expert do different from other people, which is a bit how do they build skills. And I stop it right here. 150. So what are the thoughts about this section? Okay, it's kind of challenging to write something like because there's so little text.
Yeah. And so many pictures.
Right. Including too much text is almost rewriting the chapter.
Yeah. In retrospect, you look at it and go, oh, this would be easy. It's not a lot of pages. Oh, it's all a lot of pictures. It's a lot of screen dumps.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I think like a lot of the pictures are really useful in trying to show what she's trying to show. So
I
in my mind, I'm going, oh, I guess it's really focusing on the exercises and the insights, and a lot of what I see is, I get the sense, like if I'm presenting, I read the chapter and I do this thing and I prepare, and when you do the exercise the first time, you don't really know where she's going with it, but when you come back and you look at it after you did it once, you completely see the foreshadowing. Oh, this exercise is to give us this insight, which is the next part. So I really think it's probably valuable to hit it twice. The first time, it's like it's in some cases like certain movies. Certain movies you watch again. The first time you have the experience of not knowing. The second time you go back and you look for more stuff.
Right. I think like some of the stuff is like in the definition. Let me go back to the definition. Like what a performance, like what is a superior, more consistent? We understand more consistent, but like a superior or better, and in defining what that better looks like, or what we value. I think it's a good exercise to do. Like, what is a better musician? Is somebody that can play more notes in less amount of time, or somebody that creates good music, right? It's like it kind of gives you the main the primary directive, or like in which direction you're going, like where is the North Star, right? Because if you value like technical skills over creativity in musician, then you're developing a lot of like orchestra people. But if you value like creativity and expression, then you're creating a whole bunch of yo-yo ma, which is a very different type of performer. It's not just somebody that can play anything. It's like somebody can just like reinvent it within a performance. And same thing, like there's this example of Andy Riley bunny suicides. I completely forgot about it. I was like, I'm gonna look into it because those are really funny. It's like this guy came up with a comic theme, which is how would a bunny commit suicide, and came out with 3 whole books of like ways that he would get suicide. But one of the covers is I think it's a funny one, like a DVD player, putting the head in DVD player and then hitting the button close. So getting decapitated by DVD player. I think it's pretty funny. Anybody else? Brad? Awfully quiet.
No comment.
No comment?
No comment. Well, so like this part here, we're trying to define what makes a badass different than other users.
Right.
Because arguably we're going to try to, if we know what this kind of user is, now we know better how to make such a person.
Right.
So here we're both defining what better is, but also the kind of person that makes a better. Right, and that actually, and her line when we were talking about best versus not best, and the thing about I don't know, she was talking about like the habit of focused practice is handy. I said no, I kind of think that's the thing. All the badasses are willing to put the time in.
I mean, on the other slide, it said something about consistency. And I think that's one of the main things is that, they'll always use your tool. They'll always be consistent with their habits of doing whatever they are doing. So that's really I think, a big part of thing. And sorry, I don't mean to be a creep, Diego, but like in your other tabs, I saw you're looking at Atomic Habits by James Clear. Is that the book you're looking at? The Audible?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Is this not? Well, anyway, I wanted to, because I've read that book, and basically it does say consistency is like key. Even if you wanna master something, you have to put in the time, like, and it doesn't have to be like an hour a day. It can just be like 5 minutes a day. So I think that's really what masters are doing, is just showing up, just putting in the time.
Right. Oh, then I'm gonna ask you later about the book, because I like the term atomic changes, atomic habit, reminds me of something that I read, an article, technique, and I'm gonna argue if it's correct. The same thing that is talking in the book. All right, so I guess we're done.
Yeah. Okay. Who's doing next? So next part is what? Building skills.
Building skills. Volunteers.
Who's a volunteer?
I'm gonna go in 1 second.
107.
Brett, done.
Oh, that coming.
Brett, there you go. I was gonna pick you.
Coming.
I was gonna pick you anyway. It was all a ploy.
All right. Trying to figure out the right point to cut that off. Hard to tell by looking at the words. Ultimately, back to like how to do this one, I think is getting the right concepts so that we can do the exercises. For this particular book, if we can get the right material, which basically is the right ideas or concepts that she has, so that when we hit the exercise, we know what we're doing, and hopefully we can appreciate the what she's trying to tell us with the exercise. Which I don't know if that's helpful, but I figure that's probably a good way to approach how we're presenting. Okay, well, thanks for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.